I just found out my wife's affair with our lawyer, who's now claiming $200, $0 in hidden assets from our divorce. Everything I trusted gone overnight. Hello, everyone. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Now, let's begin the video. Using a throwaway for obvious reasons with certain specifics modified to preserve anonymity. I never thought I'd be the guy sitting here, writing about how I found out my wife was cheating on me, but here we are. The most unexpected thing happened last week, something I'd never even considered possible. It's like my whole world got flipped upside down in a matter of hours, and honestly, I still don't know how I feel about it. One minute I was trusting her with everything. The next, I was discovering that everything I believed about our life was a lie. Her name, Jessica. We'd been married for 8 years, and I really thought we had a good thing going. Sure, we had our arguments, but who does? I always thought she was the kind of woman who knew what she wanted, confident, assertive, a little bitchy sometimes, but in a way that I found attractive. She was the type who'd put on a tough face and lie through her teeth if it meant getting her way. She loved to manipulate, but I always brushed it off as part of her charm. Things started changing a few months ago, though. She became more secretive about her phone, always locking it when she went to the bathroom or while we were watching TV. I'd catch her sneaking around, deleting messages, or hiding her screen whenever I walked into the room. I thought maybe she was just being paranoid or overly cautious. I've always been pretty laid back about that stuff, but deep down I felt something was off. Then last Saturday, I decided to surprise her with dinner after work. I wanted to do something nice, you know. I walk into the house and hear her laughing on the phone, but she quickly hangs up when I come in. Her face is flushed and she's acting nervous, more than usual. I didn't think much of it at the time, just shrugged it off as her being stressed about work or something. But then I noticed her purse was open on the kitchen counter, and there was a receipt for a hotel near downtown. That's when I started to get suspicious. I looked inside her purse and found a folded-up note with a number on it. Not just any number, an unfamiliar one. I looked it up on my phone and it was linked to a local hotel. My heart started pounding. I decided to do some digging, so I checked her emails and texts later that night. That's when I found the messages. They weren't just innocent flirtations. They were explicit, talking about plans to meet up, sharing photos, and even discussing how good it would feel to have sex. I was stunned. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. How could she do this, after everything we've been through? The trust I had in her shattered in that moment. I kept reading, trying to convince myself it was some sick joke or misunderstanding, but the messages kept confirming it. Jessica was cheating on me with our lawyer, Mark. The same guy who's supposed to be helping us with the divorce now claims we owe him $200, $0 in hidden assets. I couldn't believe it. It was like a bad plot twist I'd seen in a movie, but it was real. I was furious, confused, and deeply hurt. I didn't even know how to process what I'd just uncovered. I'd always thought Jessica was a little manipulative, but I never thought she'd cheat on me with someone I trusted, someone who's supposed to be on our side. It felt like my entire life was a lie. I kept asking myself, how long has this been going on? Was I just blind to it? Did I mean nothing to her? All the questions swirled around in my head, and I felt like I was drowning in a sea of betrayal. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying everything: the secretive behavior, the secret messages, the little lies she told to cover her tracks. I knew I had to confront her, but I didn't know what to say or even how to start. I just knew I couldn't keep pretending everything was okay. This was a betrayal on a level I never expected, and it was going to change everything. The next morning, I woke up with a heavy weight pressing down on me. I knew I couldn't keep pretending I didn't know. I had to confront her. But I also needed a plan. I wasn't about to just accuse her without evidence or a clear idea of what I wanted to say. I spent hours that morning going over everything I found, trying to keep my composure. My mind kept circling back to the fact that she lied constantly, told me she was working late or going out with friends when she was really with Mark. The thought of her cheating on me with someone I'd trusted, someone I thought was helping us through the divorce, made my stomach turn. Jessica was still in bed when I finally decided to talk to her. I sat at the edge of the bed and looked at her, trying to keep my voice steady. "Jessica, we need to talk," I said softly but firmly. She opened her eyes, looked at me with that familiar smirk like she knew she was in control. "What's up, babe?" she said, acting innocent but a little too casual. I could see the flicker of guilt behind her eyes, but she quickly masked it. "I know about the messages," I said, trying to sound calm but feeling like I was on the verge of losing it. Her face didn't change much. "What messages? I have no idea what you're talking about." She sat up, crossing her arms. "You're reading into things, you're paranoid. I've been stressed, that's all. Maybe you're just overthinking it." I shook my head, feeling my fists tight. "Don't lie to me, Jessica. I found the receipts, the messages. You've been sneaking around, meeting someone, our lawyer, Mark. Don't deny it." Her eyes flickered, and for a moment I saw a flicker of panic. But then she scoffed and rolled her eyes. "Oh, come on, that guy's just helping us with the divorce. You're making a big deal out of nothing. Those texts, just some stupid flirtation. It's not like we're having sex or anything." I felt my blood boil. "Not like we're having sex." "Jessica, I saw the photos, the plans to meet up. How do you explain that?" She shrugged, trying to brush it off. "Look, I don't know what you're talking about. You're jealous, maybe insecure. I'm not cheating on you. Maybe you're just imagining things." Her tone was dismissive, but I saw the flicker of guilt in her eyes again. That was when I knew she was lying, and I was done playing nice. I told her I needed some space to think. She rolled her eyes again and said, "Fine, whatever. Do what you want, but you're overreacting as usual." That was the moment I realized she was just trying to deflect, to keep her secrets safe. I left the room, feeling like I was walking through a nightmare. I couldn't believe I'd been so blind, so trusting. And now I was faced with a woman who lied to my face, cheated on me, and was trying to convince me it was all in my head. Over the next few days, I sank into a spiral. Every little thing she did seemed suspicious. Her phone was constantly in her hand. She was secretive about her emails, and her stories about where she'd been didn't add up. I started checking her bank accounts, her credit card statements, anything I could get my hands on. I found out she'd been spending money on jewelry, designer clothes, and even booked a weekend getaway with Mark. The money trail was clear, and it confirmed what I already suspected. This wasn't just some fling. It was serious, and she'd been lying to me for months. I couldn't believe I'd been living a lie all this time. Jessica always had a way of convincing everyone she was the victim, that she was misunderstood, that she was doing what's best. But now I saw her for what she really was, a manipulative, selfish woman who'd betrayed everything I believed in. I felt a mix of anger, sadness, and a deep sense of betrayal. I didn't know how to move forward from this point, but I knew one thing: I couldn't stay married to her anymore. Not after what I'd uncovered. I started making plans, gathering evidence, thinking about how I was going to handle the divorce. I knew I had to protect myself financially, especially with Mark trying to claim $200, $0 in assets he'd hidden. I had a feeling she was involved in some shady stuff, and I wasn't going to let her get away with it. I also knew I had to confront her again, face her lies head on, and figure out what her next move was going to be. That's when I realized this wasn't just about the affair anymore. It was about trust, control, and the life I thought I had, and I was starting to see how deep this rabbit hole went. After the initial shock wore off, I started to piece things together more carefully. It wasn't just about the affair anymore. It was about control, money, and how much I'd been played for a fool. I dug through her emails, her phone, her credit card statements, anything I could get my hands on. I needed to understand how deep this deception went, especially with Mark claiming those assets. I had a sinking feeling she was involved in some shady financial stuff, and I wasn't going to let her get away with it. Jessica was still acting like everything was fine, playing the victim, crying about how I didn't trust her, but I knew better. I'd caught her lying about where she'd been, who she'd been with, and now I had the proof. I confronted her again, this time more forcefully, telling her I knew she was lying about the money and the affair. She tried to deny everything, saying I was just paranoid, that I was inventing things because I was insecure. That made me laugh bitterly. Insecurity? No, this was betrayal on a whole new level. One thing I learned quickly was that Jessica was a master manipulator. She'd gaslight me one minute, then turn around and cry about how she was the victim. She told me she loved me, that she'd never cheat, and that I was crazy for suspecting her. She even lied about the affair, claiming Mark was just a friend, and that they only talked about legal stuff. Yeah, right, I knew better. The messages didn't lie. The receipts didn't lie. And I could see the guilt in her eyes every time I pressed her. So I decided I had to be strategic. I started gathering all the evidence I could find: screenshots, bank statements, emails. I even hired a private investigator to track her movements when I wasn't around. Turns out, she'd been meeting Mark at a hotel near downtown almost every weekend for the past 2 months. That's when I realized this was more than just a quick fling. It was an affair, and she was deep into it. She'd lied to my face, lied to her friends, lied to everyone, and I'd been blind to it all. Meanwhile, Mark was demanding his cut, $200, zero in assets he claimed were hidden from him. I couldn't believe it. That's when I started to suspect that Jessica wasn't just cheating on me, she was also involved in some serious financial shenanigans. I found out she'd been funneling money into secret accounts, buying properties under fake names, and even transferring money to offshore accounts. I knew I had to act fast before she covered her tracks even more. One night, I sat her down and laid everything out: the evidence, the bank statements, the messages. Her face went pale and she started crying, trying to deny everything again. She called me paranoid, said I was overreacting, that I was just jealous, but I wasn't buying it anymore. I told her she needed to come clean or I was going to take legal action. That's when she snapped and said she'd leave, that she was done with me and our marriage. But I knew that was just her way of trying to escape, to save herself from the fallout. The more I uncovered, the angrier I got. I realized I'd been a fool for trusting her so blindly. She'd lied for months, manipulated me, and now she was trying to spin everything to her advantage. She kept insisting she loved me, that she'd never cheat, that she was just stressed and overwhelmed. But I didn't believe her anymore. I saw her for what she really was: a liar, a cheat, and a thief. I also started planning my next move. I knew I had to protect my assets, especially with Mark threatening to claim the $200, $0 in hidden assets. I hired a lawyer, started documenting everything, and prepared for the worst. I wasn't about to let her take me down with her lies and schemes. I had to stand my ground, even if it meant losing her completely. The betrayal hit hard, but it also made me realize I needed to take control of my life again. I couldn't let her manipulate me or destroy what I had left. I was angry, yes, but I also felt a strange sense of clarity. I knew I couldn't trust her anymore, and I had to fight to get my life back, financially, emotionally, everything. This was just the beginning of a long fight, but I was ready for it. Over the next few days, I threw myself into action. I contacted a divorce lawyer, someone who specialized in complex financial disputes. I wanted to make sure I'd protect everything I worked for, especially with Mark's claim looming over us. I also hired a private investigator to dig deeper into Jessica's financial activities. Turns out, she'd been transferring money into offshore accounts, buying properties under fake names, and funneling cash through multiple shell companies. It was almost like she was preparing to disappear, or at least hide her assets so I couldn't claim half of what she'd been hiding. The more I uncovered, the angrier I got. I kept asking myself, how did I miss all this? How did I not see the signs? I was so blindsided by her charm, her lies, her manipulations. She'd always been good at hiding her true self behind a bitchy smile and a quick lie. But now, every secret she'd kept was laid bare, and I realized I'd been living with a master manipulator. Jessica's reaction to all this was predictable. She started playing the victim. She told mutual friends I was jealous and paranoid, that I was accusing her of things she never did. She insisted she loved me, that she'd never cheat, and that she was just overwhelmed with everything. She even cried, acting like I was the one causing all the trouble. But I knew her too well now. Her tears were fake. Her pleas were just another way to keep me from digging deeper. Meanwhile, Mark kept pressuring for his cut, $200, zero in assets he claimed were hidden from him. I had no doubt she'd been funneling money into secret accounts, and now I had proof. I also found out she'd taken out a second mortgage on our house without telling me, trying to raise cash for her getaway. It was clear she was planning something I couldn't let happen. I realized I needed to act fast before she disappeared or tried to wipe out her trail entirely. One night, I confronted her again. I told her I knew about the offshore accounts, the properties, the money she'd been hiding. Her face went pale, but she tried to deny everything, claiming I was just making things up. I pulled out all the evidence: bank statements, screenshots, proof of transfers. Her eyes darted around, and I saw the flicker of panic. That was the moment I knew I had her cornered. She finally broke down and admitted she'd been trying to hide assets to protect herself from the divorce. She claimed she was just trying to make a better life for herself, that she was tired of being married to someone who didn't trust her. I wanted to scream. This wasn't about survival, it was about greed and betrayal. I told her she wasn't going anywhere until we sorted this out legally. I was done playing her game. I realized I couldn't trust her anymore, not just because she cheated, but because she'd lied about everything. Her entire life was built on deception, and I was the fool who believed in her. I knew I had to get ahead of her plans, so I made sure all the evidence was documented and ready for the lawyer. I also contacted a forensic accountant to trace her financial moves, anything I could use to fight her in court. The emotional toll was heavy. I felt betrayed, angry, and exhausted, but at the same time, I felt a strange sense of clarity. I saw her for what she was, a manipulative woman who'd lied and cheated her way through our marriage. I knew I couldn't fix this. I could only protect myself and move on. That's what I decided to do. I was going to divorce her, take back what was mine, and ensure she paid for her lies. I didn't want her to win, not after all she'd done. I also started thinking about what I'd learned from all this. Trust is fragile, I guess. It's easy to believe in someone, to see the good in them, but sometimes that's just a mask. Sometimes people hide who they really are until it's too late. I'm not saying I'll never love again, but I'll definitely be more cautious. I'll never let myself be blindsided like this again. For now, I'm just trying to keep my head clear and focus on what's next. The legal battle, the divorce, and making sure she doesn't walk away with everything she's trying to hide. I've got a long road ahead, but I know I'll come out of this stronger. Even if it hurts now, I'll get through it. And someday, I hope I'll be able to trust again, just not with her. Not after everything she's done. The legal process moved faster than I expected once I had all the evidence. My lawyer was ruthless. He knew how to play hardball. And I was ready to fight fire with fire. We filed for divorce, and I made sure to include a detailed account of her financial misconduct, the offshore accounts, the properties under fake names, and her attempts to hide assets from Mark. I wanted everything on record because I knew she'd try to spin it all against me. That's just who she was, a master manipulator, always trying to turn the tables. Jessica's reaction was predictable. She tried to deny everything in court, claiming I was trying to ruin her, that I was just jealous and paranoid. She played the victim again, crying and saying I was overreacting, that she loved me and had only ever wanted to be honest. But I'd heard enough. I had the proof, and I wasn't about to let her get away with her lies. I sat there, listening to her sob story, feeling a strange mixture of anger and relief. Anger because I'd been played, and relief because I finally had the upper hand. During the court proceedings, I made sure to bring in the forensic accountant. They traced every penny she'd hidden, every transfer she'd made, and every property she'd bought. When the judge saw the evidence, her face lost its usual confident smirk. She knew she was cornered. The judge ordered an immediate freeze on her assets and demanded full disclosure of her financial holdings. I could see the panic in her eyes. She knew she was about to lose everything she'd worked so hard to hide. Meanwhile, Mark kept pressuring for his money. I found out he'd been aware of some of her secret accounts, but he didn't have all the details. I decided to go straight to him, to give him the full story, and to make it clear that I wasn't going to let her manipulate the situation anymore. Mark seemed surprised but also relieved. He'd been suspicious about her financial dealings for a while, but he never had concrete proof. I handed him everything I had, and he promised to help push for the full repayment. Jessica's world was crashing down around her, but she still tried to cling to her lies. She claimed she was innocent, that she was only trying to protect herself, that I was just jealous and paranoid. She even accused me of cheating, trying to turn the tables again. But it was useless. The evidence was too strong, and her lies couldn't hide the truth anymore. The judge ordered her to surrender all assets, including the properties she'd bought under fake names, and she was given a limited access to her accounts while they were being scrutinized. That whole process took about a month. I spent most days in court, fighting for what was rightfully mine. Jessica was trying everything she could to stall, to manipulate, to make me look bad. But I stayed focused. I knew I had the truth, and I knew I had to stay strong. I also started seeing a therapist to help me process everything. Trusting someone again after all this was going to be a challenge, but I knew I had to try. In the end, I got most of what she was hiding. Her offshore accounts were seized, her properties were ordered to be sold, and Mark finally received the $200, $0 he claimed in hidden assets. Jessica was left with almost nothing, her reputation tarnished, her plans exposed. She tried to fight it all the way, but she had no leg to stand on. The court was clear. She'd lied, cheated, and illegally hid assets, and she'd have to face the consequences. Looking back, I feel a strange mix of relief and emptiness. I lost my wife, yes, but I gained clarity. I learned how dangerous deception can be, and how important it is to protect yourself. The betrayal cut deep, but it also made me realize that I'm stronger than I thought. I'll never trust blindly again, but I will learn to trust myself. Now I'm focusing on rebuilding my life. I've moved out, started fresh, and I'm slowly trying to put the pieces back together. The pain of betrayal is still there, but it's getting easier to handle. I want to warn anyone reading this: don't ignore the signs. Trust is fragile, and some people will do anything to keep their secrets. Be vigilant, protect your assets, and never let someone manipulate you into thinking you're crazy for suspecting the truth. This experience has changed me forever. I don't know what the future holds, but I do know I won't let anyone destroy me like this again. Trust is earned, not given. And sometimes, the only way to truly find peace is to fight for it. The aftermath of everything has been a whirlwind. I finally managed to get Jessica out of my life for good, and I've been working on rebuilding what I can. The court's ruling was a relief, but it didn't erase the pain of betrayal. Honestly, there are days when I wake up and still feel the sting of that lie, that betrayal. But I also feel a strange sense of clarity now. I see things differently, more cautious, more guarded. Trust is not something to take lightly anymore. I've learned a lot from this experience. One of the biggest lessons is how easy it is to be blind to the truth when you want to believe the best about someone. Jessica was a master at hiding her true self, and she used that skill to manipulate and deceive. I also learned the importance of protecting yourself, financially, emotionally, legally. Never assume someone is who they say they are. Always dig a little deeper, because if you don't, you might end up losing everything like I almost did. The process has changed me. I'm more aware of red flags now: secretive behavior, unexplained expenses, sudden changes in attitude. I don't trust easily anymore, but that's okay. I'd rather be cautious than blind. I've started seeing a therapist regularly, which has helped me process everything and rebuild my confidence. I've also begun to focus on myself, getting back into shape, reconnecting with friends, rediscovering hobbies I'd neglected. It's not just about moving on, it's about healing and becoming stronger from the inside out. Looking back, I realize how much I underestimated her, how much I let her manipulate me into thinking I was overreacting, crazy even. But I know better now. I won't be fooled again. I've learned that the truth, no matter how painful, is always better than living in a lie. And I've learned that sometimes the only way to get your life back is to fight for it, legally, emotionally, and mentally. To anyone reading this who might be going through something similar, don't ignore your instincts. If something feels off, it probably is. Protect your assets, your heart, your mind. Don't let someone manipulate or gaslight you. And remember, you're stronger than you think. You can survive betrayal, and you can come out the other side better for it. As for me, I don't have all the answers. I don't know what the future holds, but I do know I'm finally starting to feel like I'm in control again. That's all I ever wanted, to take back control of my life. Jessica's gone, but the lesson she taught me will stay with me forever. I'll never forget what I've been through, and I'll never let myself be blindsided again. The road to healing is long, but I'm finally on it, and that's enough for now.